For every child who is in care, they have a care plan. It's my role to ensure that the care plan is up to date and adequate in meeting the child's needs and improving their outcomes in life. And my role is also working in partnership with foster carers because the child obviously lives with the foster carers, and to ensure that the care plan for the child, is relevant to their needs, and for the foster carer to ensure that they are able to meet the child's needs and work in partnership with other relevant professionals. So when a child, obviously is removed from home, the care plan might be, say, long term in a fostering placement. Usually the placement is identified by the fostering team, and as a child social worker, I go and visit the placement to get a sense of if the placement is going to be, the right environment for the child. I.e., some of the things I look for is, are the carers, able to understand the needs of the child? Would they be able to meet the needs of the child? Once the child is placed in that environment, I have a statutory obligation to go and visit the child at least every 4 weeks to get a sense of how things are going. And in those visits, I see the child alone, just to get from the child their sense of how things are going, their life experience in the placement. In that way, I'm able to identify the child's needs or what is going well or what is not going so well in the placement, so we'll be able to resolve those issues. I have a child who is biracial, mixed race, and he has been in care since 2014, September 2014, lives with white foster carers. Dad is black, mom is mixed white and Asian. He's never met his father. So when I started working with him as a black social worker, I felt that, it was very important because, identity is who we are, and it's very important that we have a sense of who we are. And so the work I've been doing with this child has included me taking him, out to London and interacting in communities that are very diverse. He lives in Bexley in a very predominantly white enclave. Last month on half term, I took him to London to the Victoria and Albert Museum where they were doing an exhibition on Black history and culture. And, I could see, the smile on his face. He was very, very involved and he was asking questions. He wanted to know more about the civil rights era. And you know what, what black culture is. And for me, this visit to London was very, very useful. It was very informative for him. We came back and I was like, I'm going to give you an assignment. I want you to write something about this person who was very, impactful in the civil rights era. Visited last Friday and he had written a very fantastic history. So I think with that, like I said, he's biracial. He's got a fantastic relationship with his maternal grandmother who's white. But I felt that it was important for him to embrace both aspects of his identity. And I can say that at the moment we are on the right trajectory. His behavior has improved immensely since I took over the case. He's become more confident in who he is. This is showing in his his schoolwork as well. Prior to that, he was quite disruptive in school because he didn't know who he was. At the moment, he's doing quite well. And I think it's partly due to the kind of work that I've been doing with him when it comes to, his identity. I'm the social worker for these two children who've been in care since the 27th of April 2015. They lived together up until the end of July 2016. And up until that, the brothers' behaviors, which are very complex, were breaking down placements. So I did undertake a together all part assessment and recommended for them to be separated. When that recommendation was made, I did request for a placement that was culturally matched, because I think it's very important to meet, those needs for the children, especially when it comes to culture, religious, and those aspects. And fortunately, a placement was identified for this child, and she's been there since the end of July last year. This placement is working because the foster carers do understand her needs. The child is very happy in the placement. She enjoys everything that auntie cooks for her. They're very invested in her education. As a result of that, they did request for the child to be moved to a school that was closer to her. And, they've been partaking in every relevant meeting, i.e. say a personal education plan meeting, which outlines the child's educational needs. And not only are they offering practical support for my child, but they're able to help her with her homework. Last year, for example, they were planning to go over Thanksgiving in the United States, and because the child didn't have a passport at the time, they decided to keep it on hold. As I speak to you today, the male foster carer has gone to one of the local embassies or an embassy to apply for a passport for the child so that they can take the child to their next holiday. So for me, it's been a very fantastic placement for the child because the child has been welcomed and feels as an integral part of this family, which to me is very important, so that the child doesn't feel like a stranger in the home.